Journey to the Savage Planet looked a lot like Astroneer in No Man's Sky, and to some lesser extent Subnautica. Those are all games I enjoyed a lot and they had left me hungry for more. Additionally, the promise of co-op sealed the deal for me. The thing is, it didn't turn out to be similar enough to these mentioned games. While those were survival games in their core, Journey to the Savage Planet is an adventure game. Exploration is still a huge deal here, but instead of classic survival, you have to deal with platforming and minor puzzles. It's definitely something I can enjoy, but as I have said before, I came in with different expectations. When you think about it, this makes for an interesting starting point, because now the game has to work twice as hard to make up for my initial wrong impression. Luckily, it mostly does exactly that. But as always, first and foremost, I will mention that this game supports ultrawide aspects without the need to do anything other than changing the resolution. Both 21:9 and 32:9 ran very well here. The game crashed twice, but other than that, I've had no major problems with it whatsoever. It looks pretty nice as well, and while the whole story takes part on the same planet, you do have various biomes which offer their own variations of enemies, plants, and other things to entertain you with. Something that annoyed me a bit was the fact that there are occasional invisible walls, which feels strange because you can walk around them. It's like the developer forgot to delete them and they just remained inside the game. They're very rare and they won't prevent you from reaching anything, but rather serve as a minor inconvenience. The story is simple. You are working for a company which is busy exploring the universe in search of new technologies and habitable planets. As a pioneer, you are tasked with exploring and documenting everything on this particular planet. That includes flora, fauna, as well as strange alien buildings and artifacts. Your spaceships take some damage during your landing, so repairing and refueling it are additional objectives. Something that you will notice almost immediately is the humor. The game features lots of videos which are played on all screens in your spaceship. Most of them are advertisements of some idiotic product, some are motivational videos from your company, and others are direct messages from your boss. They're all way over the top, and while not necessarily funny in the classical sense, they do provide some entertainment value. You will also be receiving some emails, many of which funny spam ones. Last but not least, you have your AI companion who gives you valuable information and can also be quite funny at times. The game does a good job at being charming. Now, let's talk about the exploration and the combat. Usually, I would tackle these two aspects separately, but here they are intertwined to such a degree that I will address them together. You will get into fights, but those aren't really the core of the game. The combat is simple and will rarely prove to be challenging. The game lets you upgrade your weapons as well as a variety of tools and equipment. These upgrades are important, mostly because you need many of them in order to be able to progress further. Larger gaps require a functioning jetpack and stuff like that, so you just need to improve your equipment if you want to be able to progress. You get the idea. Exploration is really where it's at. As you explore further, you will find new materials with which to craft things. You will also find lots of secrets, some of which will require you to backtrack because the tools that are needed to access them only become available at a later stage. Luckily, you can teleport and there are lots of checkpoints, so it's really not as tedious as it sounds. You will also be expected to scan all manner of animals and plants. This will give you more information about their behavior, which in turn can be useful when fighting them. And speaking of fighting stuff, the game has bosses. They are easily defeated, but still add to the overall experience. I like them, although they rarely require more than dodging and shooting at their obvious weak points. The game features co-op and does everything right with it. Both players share upgrades, etc. Even exploring individually is allowed, which is awesome. And when I say allowed, I mean you're not tethered to each other. If you do take anything of significance, like find a special material that is needed for an upgrade, both characters effectively get it. So, you can really split up and divide the tasks at will. I just enjoy that. I like it when a game gives me freedom and does not punish one player or does not make you backtrack to where your co-op buddy has been just so you can pick up something that they have picked up. I did mention the puzzles. Most of them are quite easy. The game is less of a challenging experience and more of a relaxing one. You will probably beat it within 20 to 30 hours and it will mostly be a stress-free journey. I say mostly because there are a lot of ways to kill yourself if not careful. Falling to your death is probably the #1 reason. Now the interesting thing is that the game will actually allow you to respawn once, pretty much where you've fallen the first time, and then the second time you are effectively dead and you appear back in your ship. This is kind of a good solution and I find it very fair, and I don't think it's a big deal because even if you do die, you just appear in your ship again and you can go to that spot and take your stuff. The stuff will appear next to the ledge of which you have fallen, so it's never really lost. With one exception that happened to me, I went somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be, so my box appeared out of reach. Had I gone for it, I would have died over and over again, but that really was on me, not really the game's fault. What's strange is that I didn't find any major things that I would dislike about this game. It's currently available for $30 on on the Epic Store, and I find it to be reasonably priced. Although I played through the whole thing in co-op, it's not one of those games that would have been boring solo. I believe that I would have had a similarly positive experience with it had I played it on my own. As with all things, playing with someone else is more fun, but here that's not obligatory. The one thing I would have liked to see more of were the enemy types. For the most part, you will get to see only variations of the basic enemies. You have several types, and there are burning versions of them, armored versions of them that appear later, which do require a different tactic to defeat, but look pretty much the same and behave extremely similar, if not identical. The good thing is, on the other hand, the fact that they all look alien enough, which adds to the magical feeling of exploring this foreign world. The game has 2 endings and offers several optional quests. If you decide to skip those and go for the faster ending, I can see how you could cut the gameplay length in half, but that would still be 10 to 15 hours, which is not bad at all. So my final thoughts on this game are as follows. Journey to the Savage Planet is not a survival game. It's not even really much of an RPG outside the fact that you level up. You will not be really gathering any resources actively. You just find something that the game tells you is a resource, but it's more of a quest. Just go and find it and you've picked it up. You don't have to grind for anything. It's a fairly easy game and it looks pretty nice. The story is boring, the humor is all over the place, and yet I still enjoyed it a lot. It took me 3 days to beat it, so I was playing it quite a lot. I haven't got all of the secrets, etc. While it may not offer a serious challenge, it was still lots of fun to play through. Should you give it a try? Probably yes. I think most people might enjoy this kind of game. If you are looking for something more challenging though, then look elsewhere. This is definitely not gonna be your cup of tea. That was a bit of a short review, I know, but before I go, allow me to mention my Patreon page, on which I regularly post links to all the free games I can find on the internet. You should check it out from time to time, and might I recommend some of my other videos too. Most of them are much more critical than this one, and of course, thanks for watching and have a great day.